Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi everyone, my name is Cynthia Priska. In this video, I'll discuss about English teaching material development. Okay, material development. According Tomlinson, material development is anything which is done by writers, teachers, or learners to provide source of language input and promote language learning. Principle in developing materials. Materials should shape impact. Materials should help learners to feel at ease. Materials should help learners to develop confidence. What is being taught should be perceived by learners as relevant and useful. Materials should take into account that learners differ in effective attitudes. Materials should require and facilitate learners' self-investment. Learners must be ready to acquire the point being taught. Materials should provide the learners with opportunities to use the target language to achieve communicative purposes. And material should take into account that the positive effects of interaction are usually delayed. Types and characteristics of teaching materials. When a school is planning language teaching program, the plans regarding the role of materials will be made. Most of people associate the term teaching materials only with course book. However, according to Tomlinson, teaching materials refer to anything which is used by teachers or learners to facilitate the learner of language. Relate the explanation above. We can divide the materials into some types as follows. Print materials, for example, textbooks, students' worksheet, pictures, photographs, newspapers, magazine, etc. And the second, audio materials, for example, cassette and compact disc. And the third, audiovisual, for example, video compact disc, film. And the fourth, interactive teaching materials, for example, web-based learning materials, computer assist instruction. Authentic materials. Authentic or learner contextualist materials is print materials used in ways that they would be used in the lives of learners outside of their education classes. For example, the use in teaching of text, photographs, and other teaching resources that are not especially prepared for pedagogical purposes. There are some strengths and limitations of authentic materials. The first one is they have a positive effect on learners' motivation. And the second, they provide authentic culture information about the target culture. And the third, they provide exposure to real language. And the fourth, they relate more closely to learners' needs. And the fifth, they support a more creative approach to teaching. And the limitation, and the first one is creative material can also be motivating for learners. Authentic materials often contain difficult language. And the second, creative materials may be superior to authentic materials because they are generally built around a great syllabus. And the third, using authentic materials can be a burden for teachers. And the second, create materials refers to textbooks and other specially developed instructional resources. There are also some strengths and limitations for create materials. The strength is they provide structure and a syllabus for a program. They have standard instruction. And the third, they maintain quality. And the fourth, they provide a variety of learning resources. And the fifth, they are efficient And the sixth, they can provide effective language model and input. And the limitations are, the first is they may contain inauthentic language. And the second, they may distort content. And the third, they may not reflect students' need. And the fourth, they can de-skill teachers. And the fifth, they are expensive. Developing materials. There are many ways in developing materials. Some models of developing instructional materials are proposed by experts of instructional design. The first one, according to Tom Limson, there are 7 steps in the process of materials writing. The steps are identification of need for materials, exploitation of need, contextualization of materials, pedagogical realization of materials, production of materials, student use of materials, evaluation of materials against agreed objectives. In addition, Jack C. Rickards points out that curriculum development process in language teaching comprises need analysis, goal setting, syllabus design, methodology, testing, and evaluation. Dig and carry purpose. A model of instructional design which is called a sympathetic instructional design. They offer 10 steps: identifying instructional goals, conducting instructional analysis, identifying characteristics of the students, writing performance objective, developing test items, developing instructional strategies, developing instructional materials, conducting formative evaluation, revising instructional materials, and conducting summative evaluation. Evaluating materials. Evaluating is an intrinsic part of teaching and learning. The activity in evaluating materials involves measuring the value of a set of learning materials by making judgment about the effect of the materials on the people using them. It tries to measure, for example, the appeals of the materials to learners, the validity of the materials, the ability of the materials to interest and learners, the potential learner value of the materials, the assistance given to the teachers in terms of the preparation, delivery, and assessment, flexibility of the material, and etc. In evaluating materials, it is necessary to examine the ways in which teaching materials are sensitive to the language learning process. Evaluation criteria should relate not only to the aims and contents of language learning, but also, and importantly, to the procedures for working with text and performing tasks in the classroom. It is necessary to analyze learner outcomes, but not to the inclusion of evaluating other aspects of the teaching and the learning process. Adapting materials. Materials adaptation involve changing existing materials so that they become more suitable for specific learners, teachers, or situation. In preparation for particular lesson, teachers may, for example, decide to use only part of a unit, add or delete text or activities, replace or supplement text or activities with ones from other resource. Adapting existing educational materials usually requires less time and fewer resources than developing new materials. Before using existing materials, review the materials to ensure accuracy of information also. Be sure to review and evaluate the materials based on individual, community, and program needs. You may be able to use some products and materials without any modification. Other materials may not be appropriate for your target audience or compatible with your program's guidelines. These materials may require modification. There are always some practical reasons for adapting material in order to take them as accessible and usable to learners as possible. However, reasons for adoption have varied and changed as the field has developed, and views on language as questions and teaching practice have become better informed research and experience. Within this historical content, it's easy to understand why some teachers will wish to adapt materials. In adapting the material developers need to consider the following procedures: profiling of teaching context, identifying reason for adaptation, evaluating, listing objectives, adapting teaching, revising. Tomlinson and Masuhara suggest that the most effective way of conducting a material adaptation is to: the first, have colleagues with whom you can share resources and who are willing to go through the adaptation process together. And the second, have a large bank of categorized materials that you can readily require for adaptation. And the third, revisit adapted materials and improve them. And the fourth, have colleagues who are happy to give you feedback on your adapted materials. And the fifth, be in an environment in which materials evaluation, adaptation, and development are encouraged and teachers' time and efforts knowledge. Okay, that's all for my explanation. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.